If FSU's Leonard Hamilton wasn't already done with the craziness that is being a D1 head basketball coach, that man's drafting his retirement letter right now.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast. Happy New Year's Eve, everybody. Crazy that it's here. Welcome to the only daily national college hoop show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I want to thank you so much for making us your first listen or watch of the day. I want to remind you that you can catch every episode ad-free on Amazon Music. Special welcome to all the everydayers joining us and all the members of the Locked On College Basketball Discord. It's great to be together. Let's get right into it. Today we're looking at last night, Monday night's action. We had a good Big 12 slate to kick off Big 12 play. We actually do have a good number of good games today on New Year's Eve. Most of it, though, kicks off like early day, even though it's a Tuesday. I love that. I love getting into all that stuff. Then we had some wackiness on Monday. Some of it with Gonzaga that was reported, something that happened over the weekend with their plane. And first, though, Leonard Hamilton, this poor guy. Look, we haven't talked much about Florida State basketball in the past couple years because they haven't been good. You know that they won the COVID shortened ACC tournament, and man, it's just been a bit of a rough go. But I tell you, the football teams made them look good this year, so at least there's that. But right now, Florida State 9-4 on the season. On the surface, that's a okay looking record, but they've got no notable wins. Like Temple is literally their best win. Every high major opponent they've played, they've lost to. Florida, LSU, NC State, Louisville. And it's kind of crazy because we were already making all sorts of speculation about Leonard Hamilton. Has to be close to the end of things, right? Like we were saying Leonard Hamilton and Jim Larinaga, but now half of those guys have already stepped away, right? Well, if that speculation wasn't enough, this poor man's spirit has to be broken after this. On Monday, it was announced that 6 former Florida State players are suing Coach Leonard Hamilton, saying that he failed to uphold a promise to get them each $250K in NFL money last season. Those players, Darren Green Jr., Deontay Green, Cameron Fletcher, Josh Nickelberry, Primo Spears, and Jalen Worley, none of whom, by the way, are with the team anymore. 2 of them have exhausted eligibility, and 4 of them are playing for other programs now. There was a 20-page complaint filed by Darren Heitner, who is representing all 6 of these guys. And what comes out of this, part of the complaint, is that they walked out on a practice last year. They were set to boycott a game against Duke back on February 17th, ended up playing after Coach Hamilton in some way assured them like, hey, you're going to get your money. So they played. They lost, as you can imagine, because it was last year. But the suit said they were never paid, even though there was all that conversation. Hello, welcome to college basketball in 2024. This is what we do now, right? Like it's, and I guess college athletics, right? We had that, what quarterback was it that like walked away from his team 3 or 4 games? Like, this is what's happening. So FSU put out a statement saying, we support Coach Hamilton's right to defend himself against these allegations and look forward to an expeditious resolution of the matter. The university statement also said, an inquiry into the allegations is ongoing, but at this point, we know of no unfulfilled commitments by Florida State in terms of scholarships or other appropriate benefits or the Rising Spear Collective relative to NIL payments owed to the athletes. And this is the thing, like, it's not Florida State that's being sued. It is Leonard Hamilton. And so that's why the FSU statement says we support Coach Hamilton's right to defend himself, right? It's not we are going to defend our. So, man, this is crazy. The complaint, it includes text message exchanges between student athletes and some between players and Coach Hamilton. Don't know the content of those messages. I don't know if we will be privy to them or not. But this is nuts, man. I mean, this is Leonard Hamilton we're talking about here, right? Like a fixture of the sport, somebody that everybody looks up to. And this is what's happening. And I think it's an issue of the system we're in more so than the people that are part of it. Because when you get into something like this without the regulations necessary, everyone's going to try to look out for themselves and their interests, because that's what the loyalty is to, is me and my brand and my money. And so this kind of stuff's going to happen. And I get it from both sides. So there's several things to me at play here. I want to give you 3 of them. Number 1, this is why we have to have contracts and regulation around NIL, because there's just too much he said. There's too much that's being left open to interpretation. My hope is that highly public incidents like this, highly talked about public issues, are going to lead to some level of reform. Although with reform, it indicates that I guess there was legislation in the first place that can be reformed. So I guess it's less about reform and more about, good grief, can we get something in place to stop crap like this from happening? It's absurd. Number 2, this one's kind of tongue in cheek, but go with me on it. Look, you 6 Florida State former players, you were not good last year. What, 17-16 or 16-17? You know what? That matters. Let me get that right, because you were either under 500 or you were 500 last year. Let me get back to it. 17-16. So way to go. You were 1 game over 500, Florida State players. Congrats to you. You were 10-10 in ACC play. Do better. Stop complaining about, if you want your money, win basketball games, and then people are going to come support it. Like, there was no reason Florida State should have been as bad as they were last year. Okay, obviously, as I said, that one's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but really, if you're winning, people are going to want to pay you NIL money. So win basketball games. Number 3, legitimately, like if Coach Hamilton wasn't already planning to be done, that is probably the nail in the coffin here. The man is 76 years old, although he looks not a day over 41. This is the last year of his current contract. How many coaches have we already heard from who are just done with the madness of NIL and portal? And this is not what I signed up for when I started coaching. Sooner or later, he was always going to be part of that, as so many are. And this feels like it's got to be the straw that breaks this camel's back. I just hope that if and when Coach Hamilton does it, it's not kind of wacky timing similar to Coach Tony Bennett right before the season started, or Coach Larinaga late last week. Like, Coach Hamilton, either wait till the season's over, I beg you, or if you want to announce it now, great. But announce it and say, this will be my last season. I'm going to finish out this season, and then I'll step away, and Florida State will hire a new coach, right? And that's assuming there, like, if something negligent comes from this case, this being sued, he might be forced to step away, and that's a whole different conversation. But insofar as it's up to Coach Hamilton, I just hope if and when he chooses to step away, it's a wise timeline. But if he does, let's say Coach Hamilton's done after this season, that would then be 7 ACC coaches since April Fool's Day 2021, because that's when Roy Williams retired. In that time, since April 1st, 2021, Roy Williams, Mike Krzyzewski, Jim Boeheim, Mike Braid, Tony Bennett, Jim Larinaga, and now maybe, I'm totally speculating here, but wouldn't you? It's 76 last year of your contract, and this, I'm dealing with basically half my former team suing me. And I get it. Like, if he said it, man, like that's the thing. We gotta have contracts. I know I said that. We need more. We cannot have things the way they are now. And if that's not the craziest thing that happened, that the news was reported on Monday, how about this one? Did you hear about Gonzaga and their airplane? Gonzaga flew down last Friday, flew down to LAX for a game at Intuit Dome, the Clippers' new arena, against UCLA. That game was going to be on Saturday. As they landed, they're taxiing into their gate or wherever they're disembarking. There's a Delta plane taking off, like leaving, and Gonzaga's plane has to cross that runway. And there's a video of it. If you haven't seen it, you have to go find this like immediately. And I think it sounds a little crazier than maybe it looked. The angle is hard to tell just how close this was, but this Delta plane is taking off as Gonzaga's plane is about to cross the runway that the Delta plane is taking off on. And you can hear there's a video of it, and you can hear the air traffic controller say, "Stop, stop, stop." Honestly, it was a lot more. I would have been like yelling and screaming it, like, "Stop! Don't move a muscle!" Right? But and so thankfully, this plane operated by Key Lime Air stops immediately. The Delta plane takes off, and then the Gonzaga plane is able to resume taxiing. So there were no issues either way. Delta has come out with a statement and said, "Hey, our plane was fine. Everything was good. We're going to cooperate with the investigation, whatever." And apparently, according to all the reporting, the Gonzaga travel party really had no idea, because you're just in the plane taxiing and nothing really happens other than you just stop, right? Like you stop all the time when you're on the runway taxiing in. So it is crazy. The news is that the FAA has launched an investigation into this to see what happened and why. And honestly, this should have probably been an open for Gonzaga. You know, Gonzaga lost that basketball game. Maybe they should have just gone ahead and turned around and went back up to Spokane, because yikes, lost that one. And then turned around Monday night, almost threw away like a 20-point lead at Pepperdine. The Waves had it down to like 4 with 2 minutes to go. Gonzaga held on. Nice, just closing finish there. But man, a crazy weekend for Gonzaga. I legitimately, what's crazier, getting sued by 6 of your former players or a Delta plane almost hitting you as you're taxiing in to like, yo, it's wild. Welcome to 2024. Thank goodness there's only however many hours left in this year. Let's get the calendar flipped to 2025. All right, guys, Big 12 play got underway on Monday night with 3 ranked teams on the road. 2 of them won. Who didn't? We'll get to that in just a second. Right after I tell you about Rocket Mortgage's great app, it's called Rocket Money. It helps you find subscriptions that maybe you forgot about, or subscriptions you're paying for twice, and helps you get rid of those or cut it down to just one. It's definitely helped people that I know who have told me, like, hey, I had some subscription I didn't even realize I had. Thankfully, Rocket Money helped me cancel it, found it for me and did it. Rocket Money tracks it down, does it for you. It's like having a personal financial digital assistant kind of thing. Rocket Money, and that's what it is, a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your subscriptions, but also it monitors your spending, helps you lower your bills so that you can grow your savings. That's what you're trying to do, right? It brings everything together in one place, like subscriptions, your spending habits, even the goals you want to hit this year, 2025. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when they utilize all of the premium features the app has for them. So go right now, cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today to get started. Again, that's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. We had 4 Big 12 games on Monday night to kick off conference play for this conference. 3 of those games included a ranked team on the road at an unranked opponent in the conference. That was number 17 Cincinnati at Kansas State, number 15 Houston at Oklahoma State, and number 3 Iowa State at Colorado. 2 of those teams won. The one that didn't, Cincinnati Bearcats. Wes Miller's team goes down to Manhattan and can't get the job done. K-State wins 70-67. I believe, if I remember correctly, that's Cincinnati's just second loss of the season. Let me pull that up and make sure I'm not lying about that to you. Yeah, Bearcats now 10-2 on the season. Lost at Villanova. That was back in the Big 12 Big East Challenge. 68-60 was the score there. And other than that, Cincinnati's rolled. They haven't played a gauntlet of a schedule, but they did beat Xavier. They did beat Dayton and Georgia Tech. Those are the notable wins. And then lose, a lot of teams lose Big 12 games on the road. And I know K-State hasn't been great. They were 6-5 coming into this game. Losses, as we talked about, to LSU, Liberty, St. John's, and Drake. Mostly respectable losses there. Because even Liberty, they're like 62nd at Ken Palm right now. So it's like, all right, fine. But K-State, it's been a bit of a struggle. But I tell you, here's the thing. The Wildcats, Jerome Tang's team, needed this win so much. They needed it to kick off Big 12 play. They needed it to ward off the haters. They needed it to help themselves season long to have any shot at starting to think about landing a at-large bid. I mean, if they do really well in Big 12 play, that's on the table. They were on a 3-game skid coming into this game. K-State had lost at St. John's in overtime to Drake, and then got kind of blasted at Wichita State last Saturday back on December 21st. So it's nice to end that skid, and this does that. And I tell you, the reason it happened, Coleman Hawkins had the game of his season so far. Really, really like dominant player of the game kind of in this thing. He just looked more active, more just engaged in a different way. 20 points, 7 of 13 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3. One of those threes he missed was ugly. I'll tell you that right now. 3 of 4 from the field, but had a double-double, 20 points to go along with 10 rebounds, but 3 assists and 4 steals. And man, I am always so impressed with his vision as a big man. A couple of those assists were just really nice. Had a nice like dump drove, had a nice just kind of wraparound drop off. Really loved it. Great vision and passing from Coleman Hawkins. That's what Jerome Tang needs from him game in and game out. Look, it was 70-67. Really, that it was 70-65. Just Bearcats had a tip in at the buzzer, but there was a goaltend call that went against Cincinnati with, man, I can't remember how much time was left now in the last couple minutes of the game against Aziz Bandago. And they called it a goaltend in real time. I thought in real time that it was a clean block. The replays seemed to show that it was a clean block. The commentators on the broadcast were calling it a clean block. Referees go review it. And not only do they uphold the call, they say it was confirmed. Confirmed is the language you use when you see the replay that shows the call you made like definitively correct. At the very least, it was not definitive. I thought it was definitively incorrect. So that's 2 points in favor of Kansas State. That dramatically changes rest of game scenario and strategy and things like that. So I thought that was a critical call. Now, look, you still got to win a basketball game. You can't let one play like that, but that's a swing, man. That matters. And man, that was rough. I was hurting for Cincinnati on that one, but big time kudos to K-State for getting this win, making big plays down the stretch. The other, the Big 12 teams, the road ranked teams that won, number 15, Houston wins at Oklahoma State 60-47. Houston should do this, but you actually have to go out and do it, and they did. It's hard to go win in Stillwater. Juwan Roberts, 20.11 double-double, 9 of 13 from the field. Great stuff there. A little bit of concern for me with Houston is you had that 20 from Roberts, 18 from LJ Cryer, and 12 from Milo Suzanne. That was 50 of Houston's 60 points. 8 other Cougars played in this game, and they combined for 10 points. 3 players had 50 of their 60 points. Now, with the way Houston defends, I guess most of the time that's going to be all right. But Kelvin Sampson needs more from the rest of his cast for Houston to do what they want to do and hold off the likes of Iowa State and Kansas to win the Big 12. We'll see if that can happen, but great to go on the road and get a win to open Big 12 play. That's all you can ask for. A very typical Houston game, 28-18 at the half. Houston scored 32 in the second half. That was the only team that scored. Oklahoma State didn't score 30 in either half. Houston only scored 28 in the first half. So them getting 32 in the second was the only half that either team scored 30 points. That's a Houston basketball game for you. Unsurprisingly, this popped them all the way back up to number 1 at Ken Pom defensive efficiency, just edging ahead of Duke, who plays Virginia Tech tonight. So Duke's probably going to retake number 1 there. The other game, Iowa State goes to Colorado, wins by 10, 79-69. Really nice road win for the Cyclones. Again, you just want to win on the road in Big 12 play. That's what matters. Because, yes, Colorado is not what they were last year. They don't have that level of talent. But again, every road win you can nab in Big 12 play is important. 4 Cyclones in double figures. Sean Gilbert, 14. Joshua Jefferson had 13. Taman Lipsey had 12. But perhaps the best news for Iowa State, we were just talking about Houston not getting much outside of those couple dudes. Curtis Jones, 20 off the bench for TJ Otzelberger's team. That's really, really big time. But the most impressive stat, not just of this game, but the entire Monday night slate of college basketball for me, Joshua Jefferson. I've got Vikings on the brain, apparently. 8 steals in this game. That's crazy for Iowa State. What a performance. Love it. Congrats to them. And then the other Big 12 game, TCU at Arizona. Wildcats win 90-81 in this game. And if Joshua Jefferson's individual 8 steals was the most impressive individual stat that happened, perhaps Caleb Love's game on Monday night was the most impressive game on Monday night for me around the country. 33 points on 11 of 17 shooting, 5 of 11 from 3, perfect 6 of 6 from the free throw line. But most impressive, he added to that triple-double type number, 7 boards, 7 assists, 0 turnovers, and 2 steals to add to it. I mean, that is something from Caleb Love. If Arizona is going to make noise in the Big 12, that's what he's got to be doing for them game in and game out. If Tommy Lloyd can get that version of Caleb Love, or even 80 to 90% of that Caleb Love, they will be in business, but he's got to do it at a more consistent level. So there's that. Just a couple other very quick things. A phenomenal West Coast Conference game to close out Monday night. We talked about Gonzaga just barely holding on at Pepperdine. Hey, quick turnaround. Understand they need to get back home and get some rest. New Year's Eve celebrate. San Francisco, Santa Clara, a great game to close out Monday night, 97-94 in overtime. Go check out the highlights if you didn't see that one. Another one, a self-own for me. Rutgers blitzes Columbia 91-64. On yesterday's show, I had called that my just watch out for this game of the night. Nah, Rutgers ran rampant. And I bring it up for 2 reasons. Number 1 was to call myself out for it. Number 2, holy Dylan Harper. Did you see this dude's stat line? 16 points, 11 rebounds, 12 assists. We call that a triple-double. Crazy, crazy stuff. Oh, and he added to that 3 steals, a block, and just 1 turnover to go with it. Dylan Harper, my goodness. This dude, and Ace Bailey still. But I mean, both of them. But a triple-double from freshman Dylan Harper. Love to see it. Per Jared Burson, does a great job with college basketball stats. Division I freshmen over the last 15 years who have a 35-point game and a triple-double in the same season. You ready for this list? Kentucky's De'Aaron Fox in the 2016-17 season. Rutgers' Dylan Harper last night. That's it, and that's all. Decent company to be keeping. And then finally, number 23, Arkansas blasts our Oakland 92-62. Isaac, why on earth do you bring up that game? Think about it. Who knocked out Kentucky from the NCAA tournament last year? Greg Kampe in Oakland. So Greg Kampe had a chance to get back-to-back victories over John Calipari at 2 different SEC schools. Couldn't deliver on it. But you know what? Shout out to Jack Golke, because, wow, that lives in my head rent-free most of the days of my life. That shooting performance was something else, man. All right, we need to get you ready for New Year's Eve day action. More Big 12 action. Several other conferences are getting going as well. And we got a great Big East matchup that I cannot wait for this afternoon. Coming up just a second. It's New Year's Eve. The focus is often on bowl games, but man, there's always a lot of New Year's Eve great games in basketball as well. And what I love, I had talked about on a show last week. It was probably the Christmas Day show. I can't remember for sure now. Maybe it was Thursday. That we got to do a better job in college basketball of like owning big days, like opening day, Thanksgiving Day. We started doing that some this year. Christmas Day, another example. New Year's Eve, I feel like college basketball is doing that better. And here's what else I love. It's not just like waiting for tonight to have games. There's a whole slew of games tipping off this afternoon, man. Well done, conferences. Thank you. Thank you for understanding what today is and getting the assignment correct. We've got 4 ACC games. The first one tips at noon. We've got 4 Big 12 games tipping starting at 2. Got 3 Big East games. The first one tips at 2. 5 Mountain West Conference games. The first one tips at 4 Eastern. We've got a whole 6 A-10 games tipping off this. It's great, great stuff. I'm so thankful for it. I want to run you through a couple of these quickly, but there's a couple of the games in kind of other conferences I want to actually get to. Here's the ACC action. 4 games. NC State at Virginia tipping off at noon. ESPN2. FanDuel has it. Cavs -1.5. Wake Forest at Syracuse, 2 p.m. ESPN2. Wake Forest by 1.5. Notre Dame at Georgia Tech, 2:30 Eastern on ACC Network. Georgia Tech by 1.5. So a whole bunch of tight spreads there. The big spread in ACC action, I already mentioned this game, Virginia Tech at Duke this afternoon, 4:30 on ACC Network. It'll follow Notre Dame at Georgia Tech. Duke by 24.5 points. They going to cover that? Probably can. We'll see what happens there. Big 12 action, day 2 of it. We had 4 games yesterday, 4 more today. West Virginia at number 7, Kansas, 2 Eastern on ESPN+. Jayhawks minus 12.5. Utah at 25. Baylor, 2 p.m. ESPN+. Bears by 12.5. UCF at Texas Tech, 2 p.m. also on ESPN+ by 12.5. So all 3 of those games, all at 2 Eastern, all ESPN+, all favored by 12.5 for the favored team. West Virginia, they've done a couple things, but can they go into Allen Fieldhouse? I don't know. We'll see about that. And then the later Big 12 game, Arizona State at BYU, 4 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2, Cougs by 9.5. Here we go. Let's get to the Big East because this is the first game I really want to touch on that happens today. Let me give you the other 2 first, and then we'll get to that one. Seton Hall at Xavier, 2 p.m. Eastern on Peacock. Number 8, Marquette at Providence. A little bit of a tricky game, but I think Marquette should be able to handle that pretty well. 6 p.m. on FS1, Marquette by 6.5. Here's the game, though. St. John's at Creighton, 4 p.m. Eastern on Peacock. Johnny's by 1.5. I am really intrigued by this game. I'm looking at KenPom right now. They have it Creighton +2. So St. John's favored by 2 points there, 78-76. Man, there's a lot of intriguing thing, right? We've got the Kaderi Richmond of it all against Stephen Ashworth and Pop Isaacs. Zuby Ejiofor has been playing so well. Davon Smith. What is St. John's going to do with Cockbrenner? Really interested to see that. This game is super intriguing to me. We'll see what happens. We will see what happens. You know what? I think I want the Blue Jays at home. Oh, man, that's tough. This is a big East game really early in the slate. Creighton. Give me Creighton at home. I know that sounds crazy given what we've seen this year, but that's what I'm going with. Going to the Mountain West Conference where we have 5 games. One that really stands out to me is the latest tip of the night. Hey, you can watch it while the ball's dropping. Utah State at Nevada, 10 p.m. Eastern. I think it's on Mountain West because everything's on the Mountain West Network. Nevada minus 2.5 in this one. Utah State, we just kind of gushed over them on yesterday's show. If they want to keep validating what they've been doing, this is a big opportunity to go and do exactly that. The other Mountain West games, UNLV at Air Force, 4 p.m., UNLV by 8.5. Colorado State at San Jose State, 5 p.m., Colorado State minus 3.5. New Mexico at Fresno State, 8 p.m. Eastern, Lobos by 15.5. Yikes. Boise State at Wyoming, 8:30 Eastern, Boise by 7.5. The other one I want to mention to you that you might not have on your radar. We've got a critically important A10 game right out of the gate here. There are 6 A10 games on tap, but the one you need to be dialed in on is VCU at St. Bonaventure, 2 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. VCU favored in this thing by 2.5 at FanDuel. I'm curious what the line is at KenPom. KenPom, has it Bonnie's by 1. Again, this is at St. Bonaventure. VCU under Ryan Odom's off to a 10-3 start. Losses to Seton Hall. Shouldn't have lost that game. They did. And then to Nevada by 3 and New Mexico by 7 at New Mexico. So, and that Seton Hall game, neutral site in overtime by 3. So, I mean, it's good night. They're off to a good start this season. As for the Bonnies, they've only lost one game. They're 12-1. The game they lost was to Utah State. Very understandable. They don't really have much on their resume, though. And so this is their first game to kind of show us, like, what are you, St. Bonnie's? And I know they're at home. That's helpful as well. Like, their best win is probably Providence on a neutral. And it's like, oh, okay, that's fine. They won that game by 4. Their other, best win is probably Northern Iowa. As I look at their schedule, they won that game by 12. So I'm very intrigued by that game. So that's the 3 key games of the day for me. St. John's at Creighton, Utah State at Nevada, and VCU at St. Bonaventure. And guess what? None of those overlap. You can start with VCU at Bonnie's at 2 Eastern, then go to St. John's at Creighton, 4 Eastern, and wrap it up with Utah State at Nevada late at night as you're getting ready to down your champagne and watch the ball drop. So happy New Year's Eve to everybody. Let me just say, be safe out there, be smart, be wise. A lot of crazy people out on New Year's Eve. Man, if you choose to drink tonight, please don't be dumb. Please don't go drive, call somebody, get an Uber, whatever it is. But also, if you are driving and, you're not intoxicated, just remember there are people out there not making the same wise decisions as you. So be smart, be alert as you drive. All right, that's it from Uncle Isaac. I apologize for the lecture. Just want y'all to be safe, man. It's a crazy world out there. Y'all, we're getting into the thick of it now. Conference play is upon us. It's great. We're just about to flip the calendar to 2025, and that means it's just a couple short months until the NCAA tournament. Ooh, it's going to be great. If you haven't subscribed to the show on video and audio, go ahead and do that so you don't miss a second of Locked On College Basketball. If you're not a Locked On College Basketball Discord member, we'd love to have you. That link's in the show notes, and it's free to join. We'll talk again tomorrow, but until then, peace.